Access Fort Wayne offers reflections of our community. Production facilities provided by Access Fort Wayne are a service of the Allen County Public Library. The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting organizations. For more information about creating your own television program with Access Fort Wayne, call 421-1250.
You know, they're just as part of Fort Wayne as any other person, whether they're housed or not. And I think it's a community matter to help those individuals that need it.
I've been off and on, sometimes intentionally, sometimes not, homeless for going on 15 years.
We need to be calling the mayor, calling city council, sending those emails, showing up at city council, and not giving up.
The ordinance that they read earlier criminalized sleeping, and it provided for a fine of $2,500. It doesn't say anywhere in there that they can throw your stuff away. It doesn't say anywhere that they can come in and take your stuff with them.
And some of them, yes, will probably be criminals, and so what? It's a whole population. There's people that aren't homeless. Find a lot of them in Congress.
I am Lisa Johnson, and I'm a member of the Unitarian Universalist congregation, and I'm currently serving as its president. We are very pleased to be hosting this event, this forum today, as our social justice issue is in alignment with the mission to build a just world. I would like to introduce Terry Duran. Terry has been doing the Theater of Ideas for a long time. In the early days, his idea was to provide a platform for the exchange of ideas, resulting in the founding of the women's movement, public access television, and the Carriage House, a clubhouse for adults dealing with mental illness. He has been credited in Ms. Magazine for being an instigator in the women's movement. He points out, I did not personally found or start these organizations, but I put people together and on shows and sparks fly. That is the hope for this forum, that sparks will fly and sweep up the eviction policy of the city of Fort Wayne. Terry says his motivation is simple. Quote, I ask myself how I would feel as a homeless person without a voice. Twice in my life, I was a day away from being homeless, and both times a friend stepped in to help. At one place I shared there were rats, and we are not talking about rats from a pet store. Terry started the Three Rivers Art Center for kids to combat child abuse because of the abuse he suffered growing up. He is also a writer and an award-winning documentary filmmaker. His writings on education during the free school movement in the 1970s are archived at Yale University for their historical significance. His new documentary about Save the Maumee River trip from Fort Wayne to Toledo in 2014 will be premiered at an upcoming Theater for Ideas discussion on the nation's water supply crisis, focusing on Flint, Michigan. He is also the subject of a documentary in the works called Portrait of a Pioneer. But his greatest production this far, right now, is his daughter Kamin, a sophomore in high school. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a champion of social justice amongst us. Please welcome Terry Duran.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and thank you all for coming and my guests. And as Lisa said, I try to put myself in the position of people that have less than we do and how they would feel and how I would feel. And my guests have been doing this, putting themselves in that position and reaching out. So I'm going to introduce them before we get too far along. This is Lexie Fretz, who is a co-founder of Common Ground Outreach for the Homeless, and Amanda Kaminskas, who was on the river trip, and she's interviewed in the documentary. And Sally Segerson, who started before Amanda and Lexie, the Street Reach for the Homeless. She's been doing this just magnificently for I don't know how long, but it's amazing that we can have citizens so caring with so much heart and then have an ordinance that would just take these poor people's possessions and sweep them away. And these young women go out and help them with the evictions, get their possessions, rescue what they can. I don't know the young man sitting there, so I'll let you introduce yourself. If you're a male, or I can't see you this Anyway, go ahead.
Female, I forgot to answer. Homeless 3 years, just now fully recovered from being homeless in the last year. Congratulations.
Well, I'm thrilled to have people who have actually experienced homeless. As Lisa said, I came very close, but there's a big difference between being close and being homeless. I know from spending a week on that river, were it not for Bill White and an instrument called Mr. Heater, I wouldn't have lasted one night on that trip. So I have great admiration for people that put up with the stigma and the physical, really, handicaps, if you will, for being homeless. So the other part of today's show is, as citizens of Fort Wayne, to make our voices heard and come up with ideas. This is how all these different groups that started from Theater for Ideas, none of these women's movement and these other things started because there were city officials. It was all from people like you coming and saying, here's an idea. Then you took those ideas and had your own meetings and follow-up, and you created things. So, and I know there's people here who have told me they have ideas, solutions. I'm so happy to hear them. One other quick thing, I did reach out to all the city council members and the mayor. I did receive emails from Mr. Paddock and Mr. Yale. Mr. Yale said he's now on the board of HANDS, that's community development, and Mary Tyndall from that program sent me an email. I have all this here, I'm not going to bore you with it. If there's anything we talk about in terms of articles and so forth, I will post them on my Facebook page, Terry Doran, D-O-R-A-N, and you can find them there. Okay, so I'm going to have Lexie start and talk about what motivates you. What's your motivation for doing this?
Okay, thank you. All right, first, thank you everyone for being here. This is kind of why, this is a big deal for me, just to listen to everyone here, to see your ideas and kind of hopefully apply our expertise and try to answer questions and whatnot. But what motivated me specifically, I say that everyone, they're my friends. I mean, I guess it's kind of like a silly question almost, you know? I mean, you identify with people that are struggling because everyone struggles, and I have myself, and it hurts to think of anyone being in that situation and needing help and not receiving that help when there's an abundance, and we can all do a little bit to help each other. So I say that my motivation is that you just never stop fighting for your own, pretty much. All right, I'm going to give it to Amanda.
Hello. I have some similar things as Lexie, as far as why am I doing it now and why do I continue to do it, is exactly that. These people become like friends and family to us. We look at them in their faces every day and have conversations, and they become very important to us. Personally, in my history, I have struggled with addiction and some other things that have had me not in a very good position myself. And because of that, you know, I have empathy and probably some additional compassion to being homeless and to being stuck in a situation that's difficult to get out of.
And I'm Sally Segerson, Street Reach for the Homeless. And I began almost 4 years ago because 4 years ago, there simply were not others out there doing it. It was a hole that was there that needed to be filled, that after the Fort Wayne homeless count, I would have sat at a table. I would have offered those people who sat around that table that I could serve as a middleman to be able to bring clothing, to bring funds, to be whatever it would be that could help these people who were falling between the cracks. And because there was not anyone that would then in turn say, yes, I will take that to this group of our citizens, that is how my journey then began. And so you're looking at 4 years, started with just 5 men, and where we are now, that you can say that your average night in the wintertime, feeding and clothing, anywhere from 40 to 60 people, and in the summertime, my numbers will get closer to the 100, 120 a night, and for whatever reason it is, in August, last 2 Augusts, I've hit 140 on those nights. So it shows you that there is a need. It shows you that also, if we do not question why you stand in that line, that there is not this judgment, there is not this preconceived notion of whether or not you deserve to have this, but know that simply the need is there, and so we are there to fill it with love, that they will come. Because it takes time to build a relationship, to build these friendships that we talk about. That doesn't come from one time walking up to someone and handing them perhaps a sandwich or a pair of socks. That's a commitment, and it's time, and it's relationships.
Hello, I'm Brigitte Hansen. I remember 3 years ago coming downtown with my friends, talking about places to go that maybe we could eat today. This might have started 4 years ago with 1 or 2 nights with Miss Sally. And I remember a couple years ago when there was nothing to, besides mission, nothing to fill in that gap. There's a gap between after 5 and bedtime that these and other ladies like them have filled in that so you could go to bed with something in your stomach around 7 to 9 o'clock. I can remember a few years ago on Tuesdays and Saturday nights, you just went hungry those 2 nights. In the last couple of years, both of those nights have graciously been fulfilled. Now we can eat 14 out of 14 days every 2 weeks. Every day of the month, we have that meal to put us to bed. And coming out of a homeless situation like that, still appreciating their help over last year. I have recently slowed down and stopped going, and they all wonder why, because that homeless count came through and my plate is no longer available to me. So I, through my own power, have been able to sustain myself, and I'm happy to be able to do that and come back and support these ladies and other groups like them, and help try and figure out that if we can get fed every night of the week, that maybe in 4 years, if we work hard, that we could have a home every night too.
This is our other panelist, Edith Kenna. Edith has been on quite a few Theater for Ideas programs, and she survived them, so I'm very happy she's here today. We have done several on the healthcare issue. Anything that irritates me, I do a forum on it. So that's pretty much it. Edith worked at Park Center. I think she still does part-time. She's now an independent therapist. She works a lot with homeless populations, so I'm going to have Edith just say a few words here.
See, Terry and I get irritated a lot. That's why I'm on a lot of the Theater for Ideas. My name is Edith Kenna. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I have worked in the field of human services and social services for at least 30 years. I am representing my own views. I'm speaking under my license. I speak for no one for whom I work or have ever worked. I need to make this clear. I'm speaking as an individual. I need to make this clear. I am not a street angel. These are the street angels. I get the feeling, I don't work with homeless alone. I've probably worked with every mental health problem, children. I've worked in many different departments, children, adults, chronically mentally ill. I just want you to know there is a need. And here is the real problem with the homeless. They don't have a home. Fort Wayne does not have the best situation for homes unless we all have a home. I can give you instance after instance of people who have been homeless, either psychotic, chemically addicted, developmentally delayed, trauma victims, where what Sally says, and Amanda, if they can get into a home, then, and you get to build up a relationship, and they get this much trust, they will start to work with you. You can sign them up for benefits for which they are eligible. I guess a couple of years ago, maybe 2014, where homeless were arrested, and I remember, what? That is not right. And I remember reading an article in the New Yorker magazine called $1 Million Murray. It was written by Malcolm Gladwell. And I thought, oh, there's some guy in there that really knows how to fix this. Well, I Googled it up, and there he is, Philip Mangano, who is the former director for the Interagency Council on Homelessness under President Bush and President Obama. So I write him a letter, and since that time, I've had 3 conference calls with this person. And what he is saying, what we are all doing here now, because I have bags of food, I give water, I give money, and maybe I shouldn't, I've been yelled at in the street about that. We have toxic charities. We are helping, but we are not solving. What Mr. Mangano said is the model that works after 20 years of working in this is called housing first. You take the person off the street into a house, into an apartment, without any demands of working with you, getting sober, taking medicine. You put that person in an apartment and then bring in the services. I have seen, and where people who get into a home who were once not cooperative, who refused medication, who sometimes didn't let you in, they eventually will cooperate with you because everyone wants to be well. No one wants to be looked down upon, and for goodness sakes, who thinks people want to be homeless? I get the sense that and I'm not as involved as these people, the sense that people think these women and others who are doing things on the street, they are creating homelessness. Like you dump a bucket of honey out on your patio and 10,000 ants come. Trust me, people are not coming to Fort Wayne, even though Sally might be a good cook with meatballs, and they're not coming here. Sally, I'm sorry, honey. Sally is not making the homeless. These people are not the reason. The reason is because we are not working together. We are not working towards a model that works for 20 years. Mr. Mangano would come here. Lloyd Pendleton came, I guess was on a conference call with Terry. He is using housing first. He was a GM, retired executive. The governor of Utah called him and said, gee, Lloyd, we got to do something about these homeless. Lloyd is on it. Lloyd is a businessman, GM executive. Here is the perspective we do not have. Because we are working social service, volunteers, we do not have the business perspective. I'm a social worker. Business perspective is, how do we solve this? What are the benchmarks? How many homeless do we still have? Here's the social service perspective. How do we help you? How do we serve you? We need to go after the very chronic homelessness because you are paying, we are paying to keep them on the streets, to be arrested, to go to the emergency room, to come over for us to give money to buy hamburgers and bottles of water. You take the chronic homeless person immediately off the street and put them in a home. You bring the services around them. This became more important to me. Some of you may recognize I'm very much of an advocate for single-payer Medicare for all. That's my true thing. But I also belong to the National Health Insurance for the Homeless Council. Because since we have the ACA, not perfect, since we have the expansion of Medicaid and HIP, we can help chronic people get medicine, get treatment, get benefits. And you know what? Sometimes surprising to us, they get a job. They get a job. And they are middle-class people. I'm going to shut up because I could go on about this forever. About a couple of months ago, I was in Myers, and I saw this guy who looked fairly familiar to me. This was a former homeless man that came to Park Center to have his case opened. His partner had died, he was evicted, he lost his job. He was, of course, suicidal, which might be the appropriate thing to feel if you're homeless and it's 10 below zero. I saw this man several grocery aisles down. He was well-dressed. He was buying food. He was paying. He was now a middle-class guy. I had another person who had 14 years of prison. He's the last one, homeless. Came in the same way, got him on the list. It takes a while. He has a home. He's taking medicine. He's babysitting his grandchildren. He came to see me. Edith, my grandchildren do not read and they are just not smart enough. Do you have any extra books? I'm going to tutor them while I'm babysitting. That's what happens when the homeless have a home. Thank you. I'm sorry for going on. It's just a thing about me and Terry.
Thank you,
See why she's a fixture on theater. Hey, I want to say a couple of things. I want to thank Fox News and for coming, and the Journal-Gazette, and of course Unitarian Congregation for hosting us today for this important forum, and all of you for coming. I do want to say the Fox did a feature on GE. That's an idea that has been brought up on Facebook in the process of preparing for this. Is converting a building at GE, land there, maybe have farming, gardening. So this is one idea. I'm sure you've got more. And the other thing I just want to say quickly, and then I'm going to get some comments from you out in the audience, is Edith mentioned Lloyd Pendleton. Lloyd worked for the state of Utah. He's now not working for them, but he's still working on the homeless issue. Over the past years, Lloyd Pendleton and his staff, they have eliminated chronic homelessness from the state of Utah with one focus, housing first. Edith speaks to the fact that one of the big reasons there's homeless problem in the United States is attitude of looking down on these people. They're homeless because they have a character defect, they're lazy, they're this, they're that. But you give them a chance, they're just like us. Most of them will become useful people. What we're after is converting useless, which they're useless not because of them, but because of their situation, into useful people. And some of them, yes, will probably be criminals, and so what? It's a whole population. There's people that aren't homeless. Find a lot of them in Congress, frankly. Anyway. Lloyd Pendleton tells me he will be here in the next 2 months. So check my Facebook page. I'm going to pass around a sheet for you to sign in with your email so I can keep you informed of what we're doing here. So who would like to start with an idea here? Jane, you said you have some.
I do have an idea.
This is Jane Young, who was on the river trip.
I was the cook on a river trip. So those weren't permanently homeless people, but we spent 10 days on the riverbank and fed 35 people a day, free meals. But I have an idea that has worked in Indianapolis several years ago. My husband was down there for a training and met a man. I have his contact information with me. He has a ministry called Peter's House. If anybody's heard of Peter's House. What they did was they did cooperative rentals. They got churches to sponsor a rental house. It was just a rental from a regular landlord. It was maybe a 3-bedroom house. And they charged the tenants that were formerly homeless $10 a day. And what they found was that many folks that are on the streets are not completely broke. So a lot of them get a check, a disability check or something like that. Rest of them will panhandle on the streets, and it was easy for them to come up with $10 a day. If you get 3 people in a 3-bedroom house, $10 a day, that's $900. $10 a day for each person, 30 days, and it's $900. That's enough to pay for a rental house. And the churches sponsored the house in case somebody decided not to stay, in case one of the rooms was vacant part of the time. Then the church would make up the difference. And so maybe the church would spend $50 or $100 in a month's time for that house, and it housed 3 people. At the time that we spoke to this man who did Peter's House ministry, he had 20 houses or something going that were filled with homeless men, and they were just at that time starting to rent houses for women. And it was very successful. It's been a few years ago, and I don't know if he's still going on, but that is something that would be pretty easy to do, and would get people off the street, housing first. And there's other bigger, more longer-term cooperative housing projects that I'm familiar with, and I've actually submitted proposal to the city of Fort Wayne to create cooperative housing for low-income people, which the city did not accept that proposal. It's been a number of years ago. But there are lots of creative ways to cooperatively house people. The other thing that I would like to mention is that is anybody familiar with the ALICE study? There was a study done in Fort Wayne, or actually all over the country, and in Indiana was studied. ALICE is an acronym. It stands for Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed. So it's about the working poor. And what they discovered was with the people who are in poverty and the people who are working. There are two groups of Alice, what they call Alice folks. One group is really not making it. They're still needing food stamps or other kind of services, even though they're working, and they're not making it enough to really break even at the end of the month. And then there's the next higher group than that is stable, making just enough, but they are really one paycheck away from dropping down. And the people in the middle group, the lower Alice group, are one paycheck away from falling down into the poverty group. And so between those three groups, the poverty group and the two Alice groups, it amounts to 37% of the families in Allen County. More than a third of the families in Allen County are on the edge of being homeless or homeless. Do you have a question? Oh, yeah. I just wanted to say that we need to take a bigger systemic perspective on all these folks that are struggling and prevent homelessness, as well as taking care of the people that have already fallen off the bottom. And even among those two groups of Alice families, it did not account for debt. So even the ones that make just enough money to pay their bills, that didn't account for debt, student loan debt, or mortgage, or car payments, or anything like that. It didn't account for. So really, people are worse off even in the study. Can I make one? I don't even need the microphone. That this goes along with what Jane and Patty just said, and this is how someone who is an advocate for national health insurance can then get in the homeless business, is because 52% of bankruptcies are related to medical bankruptcy. All the co-insurance, all the drugs, medications, co-pays, premiums go up, 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 okay? So it is not unusual for people to take this path. They have a medical problem, they can't really afford to get it treated, they lose their job, they lose their house, they move to their car, they lose their car, they're on the street, okay? There was just a new study, and I forget where this was, but 48% of people in the United States, if they had a medical emergency that demanded an immediate $400 outlay, they couldn't make it. Now that doesn't say to me we're the greatest country in the world. That doesn't ring in my head. But medical debt, homelessness, and being ill, they all are linked. Okay, so what Jane is saying, some people do have already a disability check, and usually part of that is ripped off because you can't get that without an address. So they have it sent to someone who takes their cut. However, if you get people a home, and then somebody like me can come in and help you assess what you need, get you signed up for benefits, get you on the list, move forward. We need businesses. That is a great idea, Jane. We have so much. I was on the Planning Commission in the late 80s. We have a lot of homeless stuff in business zoned areas. So there's not going to be any problems about a boarding house or anything in a business area. We've got that. I can't understand why that wasn't taken up, Jane. That's a great idea.
Well, Edith, your idea of people like you in Utah, they've converted a hotel, and they do have social workers like Edith come and work with the people to help them get jobs, help them with other problems connected with homelessness. Amanda, just quickly, we're talking about evictions, one of the things. What is the ordinance? There's an actual ordinance that makes this legal?
Sally has, or Lexie has
Lexie,
actually has it
okay.
written down. This is ordinance, it's 130.01, sleeping in sheds, building, and other public places. It shall be unlawful for any person to be found lying or sleeping in, along or upon any public street, park, or other public place, or in any shed, outhouse, building, warehouse, railroad depot, or railroad car, in or about any yard, mill, or factory in the city, without having the permission of the owner or occupant thereof to so sleep or in such place, and the fine is $2,500.
Wow. You're homeless, you're gonna pay $2,500.
So you go to
You
jail.
go to jail,
you
that's
pay for
probably
that.
better.
Yeah.
Right, see, we pay for that.
Because the
You
judge.
go to jail, we are paying out the nose, taxpayers. Sometimes we're evicting the same person 5, 10 times, and we would have gotten them to jail.
Yeah. Sally, do you want to talk about the process of the city and how the evictions go? Because there's a lot of people.
No, I want to go back to something else.
Go back to that. That's fine too.
I want you to understand clearly that as a person that is a street team, if I become aware that someone has that monthly disability check, there are fine organizations in this city. How many people have I taken into Bright Point once I find out that you have that monthly check, and we try and get you with Bright Point services wrapped around you so that you have that opportunity to get that roof over your head, the needed services that go there. We'll work on behalf of veterans. A veteran that I took in 3 weeks ago is already in an apartment at this point in time. So know that it is not just if we are doing our jobs as I see our jobs to be. It is a matter of keeping people alive until you either find out information that you can help them with, until they find out that they want to make another choice, until whatever needs to happen happens. But our focus constantly is not let me get you to stay here, but how can I be that springboard up? And there are fine agencies in this city that play a part of that picture, and not to give them credit would be poor of us not to do that.
With the mayor doing all the riverfront, building it up and everything like that, and the new, what they're talking about is a new arena, or theater, whatever it's called, that they're talking about, millions of dollars. Why are they putting people who are homeless or close to being homeless under the rug and not caring? This is supposed to be our community, and even the homeless are our family. And we should take care of our own family. I think money, for some reason, is more important than human lives, and I think that's very sad.
Thank you. Sir, did you want to say something?
I do have some ideas on
Okay, could you, you can kind of give a background on
Yeah.
what's going on in your life too?
Yeah.
Stand up.
Yeah, stand up.
Just sticks. Or if you want to move up, you can move a chair.
Yeah.
My name's Robert Angel. Most people around here know me as Sticks. I've been off and on, sometimes intentionally, sometimes not, homeless for going on 15 years, traveling about the U.S., 32 states. I've been homeless here in Fort Wayne for over a year now, due to situations I'm not going to get into. But I had some ideas for, it'd be a stopgap, not it to help with the evictions, but the idea is, okay, we have all these river greenway places that have, which most of the homeless end up camping on because they're the wooded areas. A lot of the areas around there that they end up getting evicted, a lot of it is homeowners, whatnot, about taxes and, oh, my property value is gonna lower because I have this here. Okay, with all these greenways, there's plenty of actual campsite areas. There would be excellent camping. The idea is convert them to public camping zones. One that gives a recreational area for the homeowners that they know is more secure, because if it's public camping, you know there's going to be police patrols, whatnot. Two, you don't have the homeless hiding by doing it. If you can put a time limit on each camp, where you can stay here, say 14 days. After the 14 days, okay, you gotta move camp. That prevents piles and stuff like that. But it'd be so easy for them to do with zoning, and then with the homeless knowing that they have to move in for 14 days to a different campsite. That means you're not gonna get piles, they know they're not gonna lose their stuff because they know they gotta move it down. They know the situation. Also, that gives an interaction with the public where in not so negative of a light by them being there. Because, people coming in, they're gonna wanna camp, oh look, camping. Let's take our family out for a weekend or whatnot. It's not gonna be, oh, this person, they're homeless, let's not camp here. They could be someone from the public as far as they know, until they get there and wait, this ain't the stereotypical homeless I hear about. So many areas it covers. Also, you wouldn't have evictions like we have where everybody loses all our stuff. We lose all our stuff out here a lot of times because of low warning, though I'm glad they started warning us. Thank you, Miss Sally, and everybody for fighting for that. But that it'd give people everything they need, or the stopgap while they're waiting for housing first or whatever program it needs be. I agree with housing first, definitely so. And also, if someone happens to just get displaced that's never been homeless before, they know, oh, look, there's all these camp spots. I'm not going to get arrested for sleeping in an alley or behind a dumpster, or I'm not going to get ticketed, which just leads to, if you're homeless and you have no money, that just leads to, okay, you're indigent. Oh, taxpayers, here, pay this. But that's about it that I can think of for what I wanted to say on the ideas. But thank you.
Let me ask you a question. I just wanted to know, are there a lot of babies, children's pets out there with the people who are homeless?
Other places in the U.S. I've seen quite a few. Around here, you get the pets. That's a lot of reasons people won't go to like the Mission or these shelters, because you can't take your pets. And most people know, most people's pets, that's their babies. They're not going to abandon that here, and they may not have that support system to have someone to drop it off at. So.
But not too many children, right?
I haven't seen any personally. Here in Fort Wayne, I haven't seen a lot, but elsewhere, I've seen them.
Yeah, I have read, and they would know better than I, of a lot of homeless children in Fort Wayne Community Schools.
Yes, as a mother of a 3-year-old myself, again, I said I was homeless for 3 years, and I had to recover that just so I could get my son back to not have him out there with me. Luckily, I had some people who support me. I'm in a DCS case right now. I'm going to get back March 30th completely. I've had him since October 8th full time, and so that's the answer to that. But also, I see a lot of mothers down there, and so does Sally, with children, and that's why some of them, they go to the feed groups that they provide along with the homeless so that they don't end up being homeless, so that that money, monthly grocery money, and time spending cooking, cleaning up after themselves and their children, they can come down for an hour and eat freely and save that so they don't end up on the street with their children. Is why a lot of mothers do that.
And I think also what we have to remember is the face of homelessness are many different faces, many different stories. So when you hear the statistic that comes from Fort Wayne Community Schools or any other school group, it doesn't mean that that child is homeless and in the elements. That child is still homeless if you are doubled up as families in a home. If you are couch surfing or you're floor surfing or you're living in a car. All of that is part of homelessness. You may have vouchers to live in a hotel, which that school system may help you with, or some social service agency may help you with. But all of those things, and particularly when you're at that young age that a child would be, are part of what helps form your view of what life is and what your view of what norm is. And that is where, in the case of those social service agencies that we have, such as Just Neighbors, who is there to be there for those emergency families, but still is limited in the square footage that we have. When we look at how do we solve homelessness, it is not just that person under a bridge, not just that person in a tent. It's so more evasive a situation that I think that we forget to remember that if you don't have an address to which your mail comes, to which you are calling your own, then you are technically homeless, even if you are inside a roof and the walls of a shelter, because that is not home.
One other thing I'd like to touch point on that I just recently found out, and I've been denied for Bright Point Canine, I get paid cash at my job. So then my parents have to spend another $170 a week just so that my son can be walked while I work. I didn't know, having a cash job for over a year, that would be a hurdle that I'm struggling with right now. Just to touch on the Bright Point situation. At least on that. I don't know what you need to have the energy assistance from Canine or any of the other stuff from Canine, but now I'm trying to get into on my way pre-K, and they're hoping that the qualifications are a lot lighter. And they've been trying to work with me. My boss said, you know, sometimes I will give her cash and not a personal check. If he would have said, yeah, 4 months out, 4 weeks out of the month, I'll write her a check, which I don't know why it's so hard. I would have Canine right now.
See, that's the other layer of what we think is regular society. If, you know, someone, this is the under the table, which is the other society of the poor and the working poor, okay? And so that, you know, you probably don't earn enough to even be taxed, but you probably have to file some form that you're receiving money, and the employer has to file some form that they're paying money. But if people think that people who are poor and people who are close to desperate don't have an economy by which they live, then you don't know what's going on. And my guess is a lot of people who don't work with very poor, very sick, marginal people have no idea. This is illegal. What should she do, starve? I mean, we need units, okay? We need units. If we had these places, you know, people could get into them, and then, I don't know why someone isn't helping you to break, see, this always gets me. That's what's missing, the tax piece. And probably you don't earn enough to even pay taxes.
I worked 11 months last year. I made $7,000.
You do not pay taxes. but something has to be filed.
I gotta
with the
file a
IRS.
1099 and possibly pay up to 1,000 or more, 500 to 1,000 or more in taxes because they weren't taken out every week.
That's right, but you can, see, I'm not gonna be the social worker here, but there are ways to deal with that, okay, that are legal, so that you are eligible for other things.
Yeah, and I just picked up last night, in fact, Sailor's Pizza, just name spot that, where opened several years ago, and I had run for them, and my close friend of 15 years is a kin to them. They reopened 4 weeks ago, and I said, hey, can I come drive for you? So I'm also not only machining in the daytime, but flying pizzas at night, all earning cash. Well,
Okay.
luck in my hand.
Yeah, okay, but you're not homeless, right? You're feeding your
I
child.
rent, which feels like homelessness.
Okay, but there are other, see, this is one of the things that Mangano says, we're not organized. We operate in silos is what they're called, okay? I'm sorry I'm old. I've already done that before. Probably the young woman I didn't know this is what you do. There's a lot of legal things that you have to take care of. These are called papers to be filed. That's it. Papers to be filed. That's it. So, God, see, when I hear things like this, it just makes me nuts. Because it's just what needs to be done. You would declare every quarter, you know, how much, you tell the IRS that. It's a paper to be filed.
Right, all you do is you make an estimated
That's
quarterly
exactly
payment
right.
for the state of Indiana and the federal government.
Just hearing about
It's
Alice
arranged
saying,
ahead
I
of
heard
time.
about that, and I'm like, well, that's me.
That is you, yeah.
I need to
okay.
find out about that organization.
So there are people that know how to do that, and they all need to be coordinated. So how many times, you know, this is a step up from Sally, we need the next step to help, and then the next step, and then the next step. The only thing wrong with homeless people, the first thing wrong with homeless people, they do not have a home.
I'm Quentin. I've been homeless for 3.5 months. And with these 3 lovely ladies at the table up here, they have really kind of opened up my eyes of being on the streets and not having a whole lot of support. So for that, I say thank you. And a couple of ideas that I was thinking was, and instead of having more of the baseball stadiums and things like that coming downtown, that there should be more male and female shelters going up. And because of that, one is like what you were saying, that we gotta shelter these homeless so then they won't end up breaking the law or end up in jail and for other people to pay out of pocket to just get them out, and well, then they will end up being back in the same spot where they at. Which it's kind of hard to imagine because, and in that 3.5 months, I have witnessed kids under the age of 10 with their mother and sleeping in tents and things like that. Thankful that they got off of the streets before the winter hit in December. And then that was when I first met Miss Sally, which is, like I said, Miss Sally is a very wonderful lady. She's a very graceful person, because these people who are out panhandling and things like that, they don't get the respect with people driving by, because because they're being picked on because they're homeless in their situation. But then again, there's some people who have a whole lot of money and just says, well, I'm just doing this because I see other people do it, which is kind of unfair anyway to say that if you are or are not homeless, and it all goes back to what Ms. Sally said about having an address. If you don't have an address, it's like what Ms. Sally said, you can't call it your own, then yeah, then you are homeless. But if you see some of these people who have a job and who are panhandling, and that is, like I said, that's dissuading the homeless from doing what they need to do to try to get off the streets. And that's why I was honestly thinking more of the shoulders should go up and things like that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, good question.
Hi, my name is Brian. Federal government has funds for rapid rehousing as well as for homelessness prohibition mechanisms. A lot of times these can only be awarded to grant writing organizations such as state and federal government, state and city governments, and municipalities. I know that with Mr. McCall joining the United Way, this has been something that he's tasked to say that he was going to continue to help with, and through the local phone number, I think that's provided some of that assistance. Setting up a 501c3 is not a complicated issue. Receiving funds while your 501c3 application is pending is something that can be done. That process takes about a year. So while you're doing that, you can receive funds and help distribute it and ask for grants. My question is to the board, is this an opportunity for maybe a separate organization to be created that's purely community-based, that the dollars have full transparency, and as a result, this could be something that we could go after dollars that can be used to help the folks we're talking about.
The personal stories. I know I personally have been touched going to the rescue mission. I didn't realize the severity of the issue in Fort Wayne until I was there personally. It was on Christmas Day last year, and I was covering one of the meals at the rescue mission, and there was a little boy there, and I asked him what was his favorite part about Christmas, and he said, coming here to get a meal. And it was Christmas Day, and most kids would be like opening presents with their parents, and he wasn't even there with his family.
Over the years, I've seen them dole out tens of millions of dollars in corporate welfare. Now, if we can afford tens of millions of dollars in corporate welfare for a huge hole in the middle of downtown, what we can do is we can take care of our homeless community here. We can shelter them now. It's up to you guys.